Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today on Around Kansas, our first story is about General Douglas MacArthur, one of only 5 five-star generals in U.S. military history. Then you'll almost smell fresh baked bread in our story about the Frontenac Bakery in southeast Kansas. Next, meet this week's From the Land of Kansas business. Learn about 2 notorious criminals from the 1930s. And end with a poem from Ron Wilson. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. Around Kansas, brought to you by Tarwater Farm and Home. Come on by, we'll treat you like family.
Hey, I'm Deb Beisel, coming to you today from the Fox Lofts in downtown Topeka, just over the Celtic Fox, and we want to thank Mike Fox for making this space available to us today. Beautiful historic building that they've restored and turned into just the Celtic Fox, the restaurants downstairs. This upstairs was the original Washburn Law School back in the day, about 100 and so years ago. And again, once more, beautiful, usable space. I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes about Douglas MacArthur, one of only 5 five-star generals in American history. Now, few names loom larger than that of Douglas MacArthur in world history. Best known, of course, for his command of the Allied forces in the South Pacific in World War II, and famously fired by Harry Truman during the Korean War when he basically refused to follow orders. You know, Truman decided to show him who was boss. He was born in 1880 in Little Rock, Arkansas. His dad, Arthur MacArthur, was an Army officer. He was actually a Union veteran, and he was serving in the West when young Douglas was born. And his mother was determined that Douglas would be born in Virginia. So she gets on a train, heads back to Virginia, where she's from, and her brothers, by the way, served in the Confederate Army, so what an interesting household that must have been. She only makes it as far as Little Rock. So Douglas MacArthur is born in Little Rock, Arkansas, on an Army base there, and his mother lied about that from time to time. Now, he was destined, with that kind of background, how could he be anything other than an Army man? In 1906, he graduated from the Engineer School of Application at Washington Barracks, and he briefly served as an aide-de-camp to President Theodore Roosevelt. Next, he had charge of river and harbor improvements along Lake Michigan. From 1908 to 1912, the young officer taught in the Army service schools and was stationed at Fort Leavenworth. He served with the 3rd Battalion of Engineers there. Now, while at Fort Leavenworth, he actually lived in the Rookery, which of course is the oldest building in Kansas, along with his mama. This incredible world leader was a real mama's boy. And while he lived on one floor of the Rookery, Mama lived on another floor of the Rookery. And how Douglas got by with, shenanigans with his mama around, I don't know, but he did manage to have a little bit of a bachelor's life while he was there at Fort Leavenworth. Now, his dad, really interesting man, Arthur MacArthur, was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. So was Douglas. In fact, they are the first father and son duo to be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. So the MacArthurs, what an incredible family and what an incredible Kansas connection. You know, in the new Command and General Staff College there at Fort Leavenworth in Lewis and Clark Hall, as you go into the entrance, there to the right is the MacArthur room, and there is this magnificent full-length portrait of MacArthur hanging over the desk. One of my best memories, the last time I saw the late John McWethy, who was an ABC journalist, we were doing a project together, media training at Fort Leavenworth, and I walk into that office to meet with him, and there he is typing away on his computer with MacArthur looming over him, and I just had to laugh. And he said, yeah, it's pretty daunting to have that big guy looking over your shoulder. Let me know, and we'll take you up and see it sometime. We'll be right back.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
This segment is brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road. Good morning, I'm Frank Chafin and this is Around Kansas. Today we're going to talk about fresh baked bread. There's nothing quite like the smell of fresh baked bread. Let me tell you a little story. When I was a kid growing up in Topeka, there was Buttercrust Bakery here, and their home office and bakery was located just off of 10th and Kansas downtown. So the smell of baking bread kind of permeated the whole downtown. Well, on Friday nights, friends and I would go to the movies at the Jayhawk Theater, and then we'd walk home, but we'd cut through the alley next to the building and the bakery where they were baking, and there was a little screen door there that you could kind of peek in, and you could see the cooling racks. Well, if you tapped on the door and were really nice, they might give you a loaf of nice, warm bread, and then off we went. Well, unfortunately, Buttercrust bread is no more. And, well, oh, also the building had this big sign on top that said, Buttercrust is good bread. It was lighted up. You could see it all over Topeka at night. Anyway, the Buttercrust Bakery is gone, but the bakery we're going to talk about is still there after 100 years, and it's in Frontenac. Now, Frontenac is down in the extreme southeast corner of Kansas, where Joplin and Pittsburgh and Baxter Springs and Frontenac are. Okay, well, back in 1900, an Italian immigrant named George Vaca came there to work in the coal fields, in the coal mines. And anyway, a knee injury ended that. So he happened to bring with him an old family recipe for hard-crust Italian bread. So he built a huge brick oven and began baking bread. And it must have been good because they still bake it today. Okay. So George started baking the bread, and it has, like I say, survived since 1904. That's when the oven was built. Well, the bakery has changed hands a few times. George had it till 1944 when he retired. But each time it has changed hands, the contract specifically says that the same family recipe will be used. Well, of course, today the menu has expanded some. They make breadsticks and dinner rolls and cinnamon rolls, and they also make breadcrumbs that they sell to the 6 chicken dinner restaurants in the area that they can use in their batter for their fried chicken. That's another story we'll talk about sometime, the chicken dinner restaurants down there. So anyway, the baking there starts during the day, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when they mix all of the bread dough, and then it rises, and then the baking goes on through the night, because the next day the bread is packaged, prepared, and delivered by none other than the owner. And the bread is available in Springfield, Missouri, and markets there, in Wichita and markets there, and of course in markets all around the area. So how much bread can they bake? Well, this oven is big enough that they can bake 256 loaves at a time. 256 loaves of bread. Can you imagine how that must smell around the Pittsburgh area and Frontenac? It would be good. So again, after 100 years, this bakery still exists. They still use the very same brick oven that George built back in 1904. So the next time you're down in southeast Kansas and in Frontenac, well, be sure to stop in the bakery, and also be sure to pick one of the chicken dinner restaurants and have their fried chicken, because it is fantastic. So again, that's our story about bread. And by the way, the Frontenac Bakery is one of the 8 wonders of Kansas commerce. Wow. Commerce is great in Kansas, and it's wonderful to live here, and it's also a great place to come and visit. So, for now, this is Frank Chafin, and I'll see you on the radio. I kind of stole that line, we know, on renradio.net Saturday mornings from 11 to 2. Tune in for the oldies. See you around Kansas.
Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from Doc Talk. If you miss us on Monday morning, you can join us at 6:30 a.m. every Sunday morning on RFD TV. Doc Talk has a national following. We're sure glad that you joined us on Mondays, but if you miss us and you want to catch us out on a Sunday morning, get up at 6:30 a.m. and we'll be right there, RFD TV, 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I'll see you down the road.
Don't forget to register for the 2015 Kansas Commodity Classic to be held on February 6th in Manhattan. Visit kansaswheat.org to learn more.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Around Kansas, brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
From the Land of Kansas is a trademark program that helps Kansas businesses grow, produce, process, or manufacture Kansas products. Let's meet Granny's Homemade Mustard. Located in Hillsboro, this Kansas business started when Ludia Hines' doctor recommended she quit her job as a cook due to problems with her back and feet. Her son Eugene suggested she whip up a quick batch of her homemade mustard to sell for some extra income at arts and crafts fairs, and it was a huge success. Soon orders started coming in from places as far away as New York City and California. Granny's Homemade Mustard has 7 delicious flavors to choose from, including hickory, honey mustard, horseradish, jalapeno, Old Smoky, sweet and tangy, and now also chipotle. For more information, recipes, and to find the stores that offer Granny's Homemade Mustard, visit www.grannyshomemade.mustard.com.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need.
American innovation is being driven in places you might not expect by people like Brent Hayek, an Oklahoma family farmer, who recently set a world land speed record in a Ford Super Duty pickup truck powered by renewable B20 biodiesel. Advanced performance is here, now, putting America on the fast track to more jobs and energy independence. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Don't forget to register for the 2015 Kansas Commodity Classic to be held on February 6th in Manhattan. Visit kansaswheat.org to learn more.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Around Kansas, brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Welcome back to Around Kansas. I'm Deb Beisel. You know, the 1920s and 30s in America were exciting and tragic times. Prohibition, bootlegging, organized crime, the rise of the federal law enforcement agencies like the FBI and the Treasury Bureau. Some of our most notorious and colorful criminals come from that era. Folks like Bonnie and Clyde, Pretty Boy Floyd, John Dillinger, and Benny and Stella Dixon. In 1938, this lovely young couple from Topeka were number 1 and number 2 on the FBI's most wanted list. In a 2001 Topeka Capital article, my good friend Steve Fry referred to Stella as drop-dead gorgeous. Most folks would agree with him. They would also agree that Benny was a handsome and promising young man with everything in the world going for him. Instead, a couple of teenage crimes landed him in the reformatory, and he came out a hardened criminal. Benny's dad was a respected teacher at Topeka High, where Benny had been a student before his young crime spree. Instead of going on to college, he graduated to adult crime. And while he was paroled on a conviction for bank robbery, he punched out a driver's license examiner in Topeka. Now, Stella was only 15 when she met and married Benny, and that began their life of crime. One of the most interesting of their exploits occurred on Thanksgiving in Topeka, Thanksgiving Day, 1938. And I'm just going to describe this as Steve Fry described it in the Capital Journal article. 8 officers from the Topeka Police Department, Shawnee County Sheriff's Department, and Kansas Highway Patrol filtered into nearby cabins where Benny and Stella were staying over in North Topeka. They were waiting for the two to show themselves. When Benny came out carrying 2 suitcases, Topeka Police Detective Bill Dowling told him to throw up his hands, according to Joe Zimmer. Joe Zimmer was a local historian. He passed away last year, and he was the retired assistant police chief when Steve interviewed him. Benny just looked around and grinned, said Joe. He set down the suitcases and instantly dashed in there and started that Pontiac and revved it up. There was a momentary lapse, then the officers poured gunfire into the car. Officers fired 48 shots, grazing Benny on the head, perforating his clothes, and riddling the car as Benny drove it from the motel, according to news articles. Meanwhile, Estelle simply escaped on foot. They were so concentrated on Benny that Estelle just disappeared, said Joe, who became a police officer in 1950 and served more than 35 years as an officer. I knew Mr. Zimmer and had the pleasure to visit with him about Benny and Stella a couple of times myself. Now, Benny died in a hail of gunfire in 1939. Stella went to prison, and after a few years in prison, she came back to the Kansas City area where she clerked in a grocery store. Had a pretty sad life, actually. She got married a couple of times, but never had a love like she had loved Benny. My good friend Michelle Martin, who's been my co-author on a couple of projects, we've worked on a lot of things together, actually dressed up as Stella one time, and my good friend Randy Austin dressed up like Benny for an affair in Topeka. And Michelle got interested and did a lot of research and found out that of all people, Stella was pardoned by President Nixon. Can you make that stuff up? And Nixon actually commented that Stella should have been pardoned a lot earlier because she was obviously very young and under Benny's influence when she had committed these crimes. And Stella was also a crack shot. A witness who was called to testify against her, a police officer, commented that Stella, who was shooting back at a police car and shot out apparently all 4 tires, was such a crack shot that she was not intending to kill them. If she'd been intending to kill them, she would have done so. But no, she intended to shoot out the tires so they wouldn't follow him. And he wound up being a witness kind of in her favor when it all shook out. Just one more colorful story from Kansas. We'll be right back.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. Don't forget to register for the 2015 Kansas Commodity Classic to be held on February 6th in Manhattan. Visit kansaswheat.org to learn more.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We're having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
When your living depends on agriculture, you can depend on KFRM 550 AM. If you're in the southwest three-fourths of Kansas or the northern half of Oklahoma, catch us at 550 AM on the radio dial. But if that isn't you, listen on your cell phone at TuneIn Radio or on your computer at KFRM.com. We promise to keep you informed, entertained, and company as you go through your day. KFRM 550 AM, the voice of the plains. We would like to join your management team.
This is the fast track to more jobs and America's energy independence. Advanced performance is here, now. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Around Kansas, brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. Go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Howdy folks, I'm Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate. There is one element of Kansas life which is found in the stereotypes that people have about the state of Kansas, and there's an element of truth to it, folks. I'm talking about wind. This poem is entitled Blowin' in the Wind. The railroad train stopped at a station out west. Out stepped a city dude in bowler hat and fancy vest. The wind was a-howlin', as Kansas winds sometimes do, and off went his hat as one particular gust blew. This wind is just horrific, the Easterner said. Is it always like this? He wondered with dread. So he looked around, and what caught his eye was a Kansas cowboy who was waiting nearby. He approached the cowboy, saying, "Young man, I say, does the wind clear out here always blow this way?" "Nope," said the cowboy. "Thank goodness," said the dude, but his relief was short-lived with the comment that ensued. For the cowboy offered this further correction. "You see, out here, the wind blows half the time in the other direction." Happy trails.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream.